this is a very, very special car we're going to unveil today. The car in front of you is a 300 SL, and they, as you probably know, the gull wings started in 1954, et cetera, and Porsche, close my mouth here. Mercedes was very big into racing then, and they built a number of race cars. They did Formula One, and then they did some road racing, and built a 300 SLR, and it was a two-seater because in those days they did road racing, and they unfortunately, in 1955, when they were winning everything, that was the era of the Jaguar D-types and the very innovative car that had disc brakes, etc. Mercedes still had drum brakes on their car, but in 1955, they had built a number of these cars, and I think 3 of them were racing at Le Mans, and unfortunately, the car was made out of like some alloy that was both magnesium and some other exotic metal, and I think it was an Austin Healey was going into the pits, the Mercedes was coming at over 100 miles an hour and hit the back of the Austin Healey and went airborne into the stands and killed 85 people. Mercedes immediately shut down their program, embarrassed about what happened. But the cars continued on. Also in 1955, Sterling Moss, who at the time I think was 21 years old, took one of these cars and won the Mille Miglia. That's a road race in Italy. It's just under 1,000 miles, and I think he did it in 10 hours, which, if you think about the roads in 1955 and the spectators along the roads, is a feat that will never be equaled again on Italian roads with this particular car. Again, there were 2 people in the car, one kind of a navigator and a 21-year-old Sterling Moss, who was a real hot driver at the time. This car, like the one that won the Mille Miglia, has a 722 on it, which designated the time that they took off in the morning, 7:22. So very, 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 very special car that that kind of is in the Mercedes Hall of Fame. They did 9 of these cars. I think 8 of them still exist. 2 of them were converted into coupes and were in the Mercedes Museum. And one of them was driven by the head of engineering for Mercedes for a while, back and forth to work on the Autobahn, going 200 miles an hour or whatever you could do in those days. And that coupe, as probably many of you know, was just sold at a private sale by Mercedes to fund a kids' educational program for Mercedes, their foundation, and it sold for $143 million, which is the most by double that any car was ever sold. I can't imagine the guy who bought it calling his insurance agent and saying, "Hey, I just bought a car. Can you give me an insurance quote on driving this thing around?" So anyway, it's a very, very special car. This car is not one of those 8 or 9. This is a car that a Formula One driver named Busey from Argentina made a deal with Mercedes to build 300 SLR recreations. The car is as close to the real car as you could get. It's done in aluminum. Everything, the interior, the exterior is all he had all the specs to build it exactly like the SLRs that Mercedes was doing at the time, with the exception of there were no more straight 8 3-liter engines, which came out of the Mercedes Formula One effort. We're still trying to find one of those for this car, so it's got a 6. But other than that, the car is absolutely identical to the 300 SLRs of that vintage. So, and in a tribute to Sterling Moss's 722 run, we've kind of put it in 722 livery that is kind of exciting for us to display this car. We have a huge TV screen here that has a bunch of wonderful videos of what was going on in terms of these cars and that era, and we've got a lot of fun putting it together. 3 of these cars were built. One is apparently in the Mercedes Museum. One the guy who built it still has, and this is the 3rd one. And for those of you who are car nuts, this one came out of Bring a Trailer. I found it in Belgium, and went through the hassle of importing it because I thought it was a very, very special car for the museum. And hopefully you guys will appreciate seeing it. One of the things about the Newport Car Museum is that I personally believe the cars that we have here, in addition to being cars, are most of them are art. I think they're beautiful to look at, and great to know a little bit about when we put the hoods up, about engines and things like that. But by and large, they're very pleasing to the eye. And then one of the reasons that we have all the mid-century modern furniture here is that and I ask you to do the same thing, is sit and kind of just look at what man has created here. I don't know whether AI will be able to do this stuff in the future, but very, very, very amazing that these wonderful stylists and sculptors basically have created this wonderful artwork that are these cars. So, long story, without further ado, let's just take the cover off this. Enjoy the museum, enjoy taking a look at this wonderful vehicle, and again, thank you all for coming. I do very much appreciate it.